Hello YouTube, it's time for a quick update on what's been going on with SIG. Now, some of you guys have been getting bored with this stuff, but I have to tell you the last week, things have really shifted in the online conversation around SIG. And firstly, the amount of ranges, instructors, institutions, whatever, just so many different places have been banning the use, at least temporarily, of the SIG 320. I mean, I can't even really keep it all straight. At one point, I was just posting every one that people sent to me. I just posted them up on Instagram. So people to send me a little notice, like, hey, SIG's banned from here. Share it up to Instagram. I had 50 going in a 24-hour period at one point, just because, again, the volume of these sort of things. King County Sheriff's Office, my agency and biggest sheriff's office in Washington State, banned P320s. Richmond Rod and Gun Club, effective immediately, 6-hour P320 platform is banned. My local Bass Pro has said corporate won't allow the purchase of any 320s from customers attempting to sell them and haven't sold any this previous week. My local club here in Arizona, Cactus Combat Match League, just banned 320s from all matches, and so on and so on and so on. And so it's like everybody all over the place is talking about this week. Tons of ranges taking action and banning the 320. So it's been like I said, I did put out a video saying, hey, this is a vibe shift. And it really is a vibe shift. Things have people's attitudes are a lot different about it now. And I'm seeing people being a lot less sort of defensive of the platform. And then the kind of the long-time influencer people like the GBRS guys, for example, are catching a lot of shit. I think for being anywhere near this thing. It's like, hey, people are getting hurt. We don't think you guys are being truthful. And, you're shills, sellouts, whatever people want to say. That's really been the big thing going on over the last week. Now, another interesting thing happening. There's a YouTube channel. What is it? I'm going to put a link to this video down in the description. It's from Wyoming Gun Project. Not a guy I was familiar with before this, but let me tell you what he did. Okay, a couple of weeks ago, I posted to Instagram a guy taking P365s, one 320, one 365, and what he was doing was like he had some pressure on the trigger like this, and he's beating on the slide and torquing on the slide, and eventually got the gun to discharge. Now, I played around with that with my own 320, where I add a little pressure here onto the trigger, then kind of hit the back of the slide or whatever. And I don't feel like I'm discharging the gun without, moving my finger all the way through, but it's kind of hard to tell. So I didn't think it was like a definitive type of test, but it was interesting that a guy was saying, apply a little bit of pressure to the trigger, and then the gun will, I can get it to go off by whatever, beating on it or doing stuff. Wyoming Gun Project had a kind of a more interesting idea. What he did was put a screw in here so he could measure. He put a screw right into the trigger guard, I think, and it set the trigger back just a little bit, and then it was a very consistent hold point on the trigger, and then he started, manipulating the gun or messing around with it and getting the striker to fall. So it's a long video, but I'll put it down in the description so you can take a look at it. Now, there's a lot to be said about it, right? I mean, if you put some pressure on the trigger, you can't really be shocked then when the gun goes off, right? But at the same time, it's probably not supposed to work that way where you just put in a millimeter or a couple millimeters of travel into the trigger, and then I can the guy's beating on the gun or hitting it and getting it to go off. But I don't know if it's definitive or what it all means, but it looks like another piece of the puzzle. So I'll link that up down below so you can get a look at it. And like I said, it's generating a lot of discussion online. In other news, Bruce Gray from Gray Guns has weighed back in on this again. I posted a clip of him discussing this to Instagram. He did post a pretty long Instagram video. It's weird. Let me take this comment here. This guy nails it. He says that it's basically impossible. Then later in the video, he explains 5 different ways that it's possible. Yeah, that's kind of how Bruce is talking. He's saying like, "Hey, this can't really happen except well under this circumstance." That kind of stuff. And it looks kind of crazy. One guy called it engineer brain. One guy called it engineer brain, which is kind of what it is. Like, I can't reproduce this thing that's happening in the real world. Therefore, it must not be happening like that in the real world. That's kind of Bruce's argument, and it doesn't. I mean, again, at this point, it doesn't really make sense. This guy nails it. I used to be a huge fan of Bruce. Also used to be a customer. I'm done with him. This just isn't acceptable. Profits over people, gray guns. Phew, what a relief. After hearing this, I can disregard all other evidence and go back to pointing my AXG Legion, X5 Scorpion TAC Ops P320 at my balls. Thanks for the peace of mind, Bruce. Yeah, that's pretty much the reaction that Bruce Gray's been getting, and I think rightly so. People are kind of tired of being lied to at this point. And then finally, the last thing I have, I posted another like a news story. I think it's local news. What channel is this? K5 King 5. Investigative reporting from the state of Washington. Again, discussing the SIG 320s. I posted that news story to my Instagram if you're curious to check it out. All right, good. Let's go back through your comments on the SIG thing. I'm going to be reading from the SIG response to the internet video. We did hear from SIG, I think 4 or 5 days ago, and haven't heard much since. So let's see what they got to say here. A local range had a SIG incident. Guy was shooting, holstered, turned around to walk to the table behind the firing line. Gun went off, hitting his calf. The gun had been holstered around 10 seconds. They had it on camera. Bro is currently suing SIG, and that range banned P320s. Yeah, I think there's a few cases like this going around now. All right, Safariland should stop selling 320 holsters since SIG keeps blaming them. F SIG. Not a bad response from Safariland, right, to be fair, because they do always bring up the Safariland holsters. All right, Han Solo didn't mean to shoot first. He was just carrying a P320. Okay, fair enough. I carried 50 SIGs in a duffel bag in Afghanistan. That's Tim Kennedy, probably. SIG chose to stick to their lies and a service member died. SIG should lose all the military contracts. There's a lot of that kind of sentiment floating around now. Regardless of what actually happened, that's kind of what it looks like, and it makes people mad. The only reply from SIG at this point should be a complete recall of the 320s. There you go. All right, we received our first cease and desist letter from SIG's attorneys back in May when we announced that they were no longer allowed in classes in April of this year. We received a second letter a few weeks ago and replied, basically telling them to stop harassing us and they can't tell us how to run our business, also that we've watched one go off in a holster in class. I'd expect the new entities pushing the ban to soon receive the same since SIG is a multi-million-dollar bully. I don't know. Are they going to sue all these people? It just seems like there's too many for SIG to do that. SIG 320 now banned at gunsight. Yes, it is. This is not the first fatality. Roman Neshin died when his P320 allegedly had an uncommanded discharge, severing his femoral artery. Yeah, I believe that was the guy where they found him. They found him dead in his basement with plastic bits of the holster in his leg and stuff like that. It was pretty gruesome situation. All right. Well, in any event, it's a good update for what's going on with SIG. Like I said, this week was it was pretty rough for SIG. It was not too good, and I mean, who knows how much longer this is going to go on at this point? But it's interesting to watch. That's for sure.